Okay, so in this video we are going to be looking at what's the trade-off between unemployment and inflation shown by the long run Phillips curve. The long run Phillips curve, right? Now in the late 1970s, the Nobel Prize winning monetarist economist Milton Friedman, he said that there is no stable negative relationship or stable trade-off between unemployment and inflation. So he questioned this and he said that there is a relationship but not necessarily a permanent one, rather it's a temporary one. So he said that there has to be something called a long run Phillips curve and not just a short run Phillips curve, right? So we're going to see how this works. We're going to draw side by side both of the ADAS model and the long run Phillips curve. So as usual, I will start with the ADAS model on the left side. So drawing the price level over here on the y-axis and the real GDP on the x-axis. Right, and I will start off with a downward sloping AD curve and an upward sloping SRAS curve, right? Now over here I will also draw an LRAS curve to show that the economy is at potential output. All right, and then at this point, at this starting point, YP is the real GDP as shown by the x-axis, and PL1 is the price level as shown on the y-axis, right? And at the same time, side by side, I will draw the Phillips curve. So for the Phillips curve, we take rate of inflation on the y-axis and we take unemployment rate on the x-axis. Okay, and now I want to show that same point A. So as we have done before, I'll just take it from that ADS curve over here into this diagram. I'll just mark a point A, right? And let's say over here YP, the NRU, the natural rate of unemployment at the potential output, is 5%, right? So which means this is the unemployment rate. So over here the unemployment rate is 5%. So let me just take a dotted line and write down over here 5%, okay, which shows us point A. I'm going to mark the same point A over here. So point A, 5% NRU on the ADS diagram corresponds to the 5% unemployment rate on our short run Phillips curve. So I can draw one short run Phillips curve because of this point A, and I'll call it SRPC1. All right, and I'll even take an inflation rate. Let's say the inflation rate is 5% over here, just to show that at this point this is the inflation rate and this is the unemployment rate. Okay, and now let's say we are now going to show that there's an increase in aggregate demand, right? So let me just show that with another color. Okay, so green is showing me an increase in aggregate demand, so which means that now I have a new equilibrium called B due to the shift of AD to the right. Okay, and this is an inflation obviously in the economy, so I can call this Y1 or Y inflation, whatever you want to, and I call it price level 2. Okay, Now I want to show this on the SRPC. I know that I will have to show it as a point over here. So this is B. There has been an upward movement along my SRPC because this corresponds to a lower unemployment rate due to high AD. So let's say the unemployment rate has fallen to 3%, right? And the inflation rate has obviously increased. So let's give that a number 2. Let's say the inflation rate is now 7%. So from 5% it has increased to 7%, okay? Because this is the rate of inflation on the y-axis and the unemployment rate on the x-axis, right? All right, so now we have shown that this is what's happening. This is the short run because of the higher price level and there's a lower unemployment rate. But we know that in the short run, wages are basically sticky, right? The wages are constant or sticky. This is what we say happens in the short run, right? So that's because of certain reasons. We know due to labor contracts or whatever, in the short run the wages are constant, right? With the price level increasing, firm profitability is increasing because the price level has gone up from PL1 to PL2, which means that the firms have more profit, and due to output increasing, unemployment is falling. But in the long run, now, you know, after a point of time, wages are going to increase. Now, wages are an important cost of production for firms. So when wages increase, firms' cost of production is going to increase. And now when firms' cost of production increases, they are going to decrease the short-run aggregate supply. So that means there's going to be a leftward shift of SRAS. This will happen once there's the firms, once workers start demanding for an increase in wages, right? So in the short run, it's fine, but in the long run, SRAS curve will shift leftwards because wages will rise to meet the increases in the price level. So now what's happened is that our SRAS has shifted to the left, okay? And we have a new equilibrium called C. Now, corresponding to this new equilibrium, we are saying that we have come back to YP and the price level has increased to PL3, right? So there's an increase in price level to PL3, but real GDP has come back to potential. Real GDP has fallen again to potential, and the rate of unemployment will now return to the previous rate of unemployment, which was 5%, right? We earlier had the 5%. So the unemployment rate has again decreased. So now show that. Obviously, we will show that through a point which is again at 5%. So what we can do is basically extend this. We want to show a point somewhere here, right? Because we are just extending this over here, where we are coming back to the 5%, right? But at the same time, we have a higher rate of inflation, because this higher rate of inflation is seen on the ADS diagram. So let's say this is about 9%. So higher rate of inflation and the unemployment rate has come back to the same, which means C and A are basically on the same vertical line. So we can say that there is a long run Phillips curve, which is like the long run aggregate supply curve, where the there's that trade-off is going to always come to, right? So there's a vertical long run Phillips curve which comes at the natural rate of unemployment. Okay, indicating that unemployment is independent of the rate of inflation, right? Even though the rate of inflation has increased to 9%, the unemployment has actually, increased to 5% again. So that is independent of the rate of inflation, and that governments, they don't really have a choice between the two competing alternatives. In the long run, the only impact of an increase in aggregate demand is to increase the rate of inflation, while the level of real output and the unemployment remain unchanged at the NRU. So this is what LRPC is. Thank you.